Hello everyone, and welcome to Principles of Macroeconomics with your professor, Gwen Kosen. My name is Nils Hagstrom, and I'll be walking you through some of the successful tips that I learned throughout the course of economics. The first of which being the time and effort that you put into the class directly corresponds to the grade you receive. The first thing I would like to do is take you through some of the expectations of you throughout this class. The first expectation is that you should be open-minded about the things that you're learning. Instead of not accepting based on your bias, try and take facts from the book and compare them to your way of thinking. Please start a discussion throughout class on any of the material that is being presented. If you have any further questions about the topics that are discussed throughout class, feel free to ask any of your classmates or Professor Kosen for help. Next, I'd like to take you through your textbook, Economics by Gwartney and Straub, the 15th edition from Cengage Learning. Yes, you will need this book in order to complete assignments throughout the class. As far as the actual reading of the text goes, it is best to read each chapter as the class progresses. This will allow you to fully participate in the discussions throughout class. The reading is also highly relevant to each test that you take. So now that you know how important the reading is, what are some solutions to be able to keep focused throughout reading the book? The first suggestion I have is that you should check the key points list at the back of each chapter and find them throughout the text. This helps see what is important throughout the chapter and gives some context to it. And once you find that, you can highlight the topics in order to remember them later. Another important thing throughout your text is the graphs. You should always look through the graphs and make sure to understand them. Throughout this process, be sure to be taking notes on what you're reading and reflect on them later when you're studying for the test. The third important thing to do when you're reading your text is to read through all of the definitions and see if they relate to each other. If they do, understand how they relate to each other, and write them down in order to keep them in your memory. One of the most important things in trying to fully understand the chapter is to read through and complete each critical analysis question at the end of the chapter. This will take you about 45 minutes, but it is well worth it. It helps you think through and understand all of the principles that are taught during the chapter. This can also be used as a reference when going back and studying the chapter for each test that you have in the future. Other learning tips in order to fully understand the material that is taught throughout this course would be to always try and read the articles and watch the videos that are posted on Moodle. The articles and the videos posted to Moodle are just further explanation and added details to the topics within each chapter. Because of this, it is best to do this with the corresponding chapter, as these will all be valuable information that will be on the exams. It is also always a good idea to be taking good notes and paying attention throughout the class. Again, if you have any questions about the text or critical analysis questions, do not hesitate to ask Professor Kosen about them. She's very nice, she knows a lot about economics, and she will see the initiative and effort put in. Seriously, what's the worst thing that could happen? All of her contact information is in the syllabus and very easily accessed through Moodle. So what should you expect to learn? Through this course, you will learn about resource use, distribution, international and domestic trade, GDP, and money supply. You will also learn of the keys to economic prosperity, which you should always keep in mind. You will also learn to relate economic policy and economic structure to Scripture and how a Christian should view money and economics. You will also earn participation points throughout the class. One of the ways that you earn the participation points is through the devotionals that you give to your fellow classmates. These devotionals are simply additional ways of relating the economics to our faith. While these verses do not have to do specifically with economics, but maybe our attitude towards it. Finding verses that relate to economics can help put current events and policies into context with Scripture. I found that through listening to my fellow classmates' devotionals, it becomes very easy to relate the verses. The second way of earning participation points is through the presentation of a current event. Find an article studying an event having just taken place. Point out any of the bias that you can see throughout the article. Give a brief background of the event and any other context that you might think is necessary. In addition to these, let us know what your opinion is. Do you agree or disagree with the author of the article? There are a few projects that you should always be aware of throughout the class, the first of which being the data gathering project. My first piece of advice for this project is to gather data, real data. Be sure to use credible sources and use sources that view the full picture of the situation at hand. Minimize the source bias and identify how the data was gathered for that article. Using these criteria is very important for the oral reports as well. For both of these projects, it is very important to be working well with your groups. Give everyone an objective. Divide up research and corresponding sections of the paper or presentation. Make sure each person in your group has an even amount of work. Meet with your groups at the beginning of the project and meet when you compile all of your research and review each section together. These projects are very helpful in building your skills of analyzing present and past economic events and using the principles and theories from your text in order to do so. The work involved in economics can sometimes worry people. However, while the class is fast-paced, if you keep up with the work and put the effort in, it is fairly straightforward. This is done through reading as you go through the class and completing the critical analysis questions for each chapter. If you make sure to pay attention and complete all of the in-class work, it really helps with any of the other work required. I also highly suggest to use study groups. While they are used for projects, they are also very helpful for the general work and keeping each other accountable. While you earn participation through your devotionals and current event presentations, it is also very important to participate in other ways. First, it is obviously important to come to class each day. While you are in class, try and be thoughtful and contribute to the class discussions. Also, ask any questions whenever it is necessary and take notes throughout the lectures. So now that we've gone through the tips and instructions to get through the class, enjoy the class and relate it to the decisions that you may have to make. Work hard and keep yourself accountable for the work that you do. Study thoroughly and you will be rewarded. Use integrity in everything you do, and obviously not just in economics. Help each other through the class if you or another classmate needs help. Always ask Professor Kosen for help if you and another classmate are confused. And lastly, good luck.